Such a delight. It's such a delight to be with you. And I've been looking forward to crashing your family reunion. And by talking about the challenge of slow and steady faithfulness over time. And so I just want to begin by talking about a speech that I gave 2 years ago, and it was a 90-second speech, and I remember it as the cake speech. The event was a transition where I had pastored Ada Bible Church for 40 years, starting with a group of 20-some people, and it's become large and complex. And after 40 years, I handed off the leadership baton to my sidekick, Aaron Buer, and I was his boss, and now he's my boss. I was full-time then, I'm full-time now, but in a secondary role. But when you serve a church for 40 years and you're letting go of the leadership baton, that moment kind of needs to be honored. And so Aaron, my new boss, notified me that we would be meeting to have cake. That's what happens. You're with an organization for 40 years, cake. And so the staff was gathered, those who could make it, and Aaron said some very kind words about our time at Ada and 40 years there and wanting to honor that moment before the cake. And I'm looking at our staff, right? And I'm looking at our younger staff, and at this point, almost everybody's younger than I am. And I said, can I take a minute? And literally, I took like 90 seconds and gave the 90-second cake speech. Chris, my wife, was standing next to me. And I just looked at our younger staff, and I said, the goal isn't to make it 40 years. But if you can make it to the 40-year mark and still love Jesus and not hate the church, and not resent your board, and still be connected to your spouse, now you have something. Because that's a challenge, isn't it? Not simply longevity, but passionate longevity. That challenge of bringing our best self over and over and over and over again for an extended period of time. I discovered something in ministry long ago, and it is this. People in ministry tend to quit long before they notify their boards. People tend to check out long before they retire. Sometimes you go, dude, when did you stop bringing your heart? When did you say, listen, you're still going to get my body, but you really haven't had me, the best me, for 3 years? How does that happen? And I have a suspicion it is not only in pastoral ministry. I have a sneaking suspicion the same can happen in education. From time to time, I've reminded our staff that my greatest gift to the family of Ada Bible Church over 40 years. I have a solid teaching gift, but my greatest gift to the church isn't my teaching gift. And I've had a solid passable leadership gift. But the greatest gift I bring to our ministry isn't my leadership gift. The best gift I've been able to bring to our church is a walk with Jesus worth having. A heart that's alive to God and alive to other people, my friends, through the bumps and bruises and ups and downs of ministry, through COVID. Those of you who administrated through COVID and taught through COVID, I want to give you all merit badges commemorating the challenges of that season. So there we go. How is it that you can bring your best self, not just week after week, but perhaps year after year and perhaps decade after decade? So I want to talk about one of my heroes, and one of my heroes is this guy right here. Any of you familiar with this guy? Right, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, a television program that ran for 33 years, like 1968 to 2001. And every single day, Fred Rogers had the same entrance drill. Some of you who watched the program when you were younger, or perhaps my age, your kids watched it, you know the entrance drill. The piano music begins to play, the door opens, Fred Rogers walks in, and with a wave, he begins to sing. There we go. A beautiful day in the neighborhood as he descends the stairs, and he continues to sing, a beautiful day for a neighbor, would you be mine, would you be mine? He walks to the closet, opens the door, takes off his suit jacket, hangs up his suit jacket, takes off a zippered sweater, zips up the sweater. As he continues to sing, I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you, goes down to a bench, takes off his shoes, puts on his tennis shoes, laces them up. As he finishes the song, won't you be, please won't you be my neighbor? And this, my friends, is the way he started that program for 33 stinking years. Why? I mean, listen, if you did it for like 8 years, that was your entrance drill, wouldn't you just want to walk in, jump over the couch and say, okay, let's just get started? 33 years. 8 years, now double that to 16. Double that again to 32, and you're closing in on the length of time that Fred Rogers used the identical entrance drill for his program. Why? And quite frankly, I think it's because he knew his audience. Fred Rogers knew that a bunch of his listeners, his viewers, came from stable homes. The kind of homes where alarm clocks were set, Cheerios are put out on the counter with a gallon of milk, adults came home punctually at night, people went off to work. A bunch of his viewers came from stable homes, and a bunch of his viewers came from absolute chaos. You never knew when you were going to be moving again, a new school again, a new woman in the house or man in the house again, what volatility you were coming home to in the evening. And for the people from his viewers from radically unstructured homes, he was one of the most stable things in their lives. And he taught systems. When you take your coat off, you hang it up. When you put your shoes on, you tie them, and there's a place for the shoes to go. For some of his viewers, he was the most structured, dependable thing in their life, because Rogers knew that the world was not a safe place. The kids would experience anger, that they would experience loss, that they would be frustrated, and that they would need a friend. They would need a coach. They would need a neighbor to walk with them through those things. 4 Daytime Emmy Awards. Television Hall of Fame. The Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest non-military award a U.S. citizen can receive. Musical guests like Wynton Marsalis and Yo-Yo Ma. Why? 4 Daytime Emmy Awards, Television Hall of Fame. My friends, we're talking sock puppets here. No computer-generated imagery. Most of the songs he wrote and sang many of the parts and acted many of the parts. Why? And I don't think it was because of the brilliance of any single program, but for the consistency, consistent faithfulness, year after year after year, decade after decade after decade. That's a reason why Fred Rogers is one of my heroes, the 33-year run. The 33-year run. We just have to confess something together. We live in a culture that is addicted to immediacy. And Amazon Prime isn't helping the cause. We want it like now. We are enamored with the quick fix and infatuated with the overnight success. And yet, look at me. We realize together today that our greatest effectiveness and our greatest impact will probably come from doing very much the same thing day after day after day after day, and often with the same people, my friends. It's about mastering the mundane and bringing the best version of ourselves again and again and again. And there's a moment here where we just want to stop and where we go, yeah, but Jeff, in the Bible, we just lurch from one phenomenal miracle to the next. It is a book of the spectacular, exploding on every page. Is it? I want to challenge you to read the Bible for the boring parts. Anyone familiar with a character, Old Testament character by the name of Samuel? You familiar with Guy by the name of Samuel? Okay. When first introduced to Samuel, he is not the prophet of God. He's a kid. It says literally he's hanging out at the tabernacle, the portable worship center of Israel. And at the tabernacle, the priest is named Eli, and it describes Samuel this way. Samuel is a child wearing a linen ephod, meaning you go to the tabernacle to worship, and there's this 4-year-old that runs by in a priest outfit, a child wearing a linen ephod. But there's that night that Samuel goes to bed in the tabernacle. His name is called. He jumps up. He runs off to Eli the priest and says, "You called me?" And Eli, the old guy, says, "Get back to bed." "No, I didn't." And he goes back to bed. And then a second time, his name is called. "Samuel, Samuel." He jumps up, runs to Eli the priest. "You called my name." He says, "No, I didn't. Get back to bed." Third time, Samuel jumps up, runs to Eli the priest, and says, "You called me." And this time, Eli's getting freaked out a little bit. He says, "Okay, the next time you hear your name called, say," didn't you know what Samuel was supposed to say? "Speak, for your servant is listening." And now Samuel tries to go back to bed. And there's his voice. It says, the Lord came and stood beside him and said, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel goes, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." And that night, the boy, Samuel, gets a prophecy for Eli and for the nation. And all of a sudden you realize he's not just a boy priest, he's a boy prophet. God is going to speak to the people through him. And you say, "Oh my goodness, what happened next? What happened next?" And what happened next is this. Samuel disappears from the story for about 3 chapters. The Philistines attack. The Ark of the Covenant gets stolen. It travels all over Philistia. And when you then open the Bible after that event to 1 Samuel chapter 7, here is Samuel. He's no longer a kid. He is a grown man bringing his adult voice to spark a national revival. If you are turning your hearts to the Lord, you've got to get rid of your other gods. And here is Samuel the adult, and we get this national revival. And we go, okay, we've got a great start here. What happened next? What happened next? And what happened next is this. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. You go, what? He's old. How did he get old? Where did we get 2 things. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Spark a national revival. And then he's old and he appoints his kids as Israel's leaders. Where did his life go? And when I mean reading the Bible for the boring parts, it's the 2 verses, the end of chapter 7, that immediately precede that summarize the entire adult ministry of Samuel. We read this: Samuel continued as Israel's leader all the days of his life. From year to year, he went on a circuit from Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, judging Israel in those places. That's where his life went. Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, year after year after year after year. That's where his life went. Now, I don't anticipate that you will remember the locations of these places, but I just want you to have an image in your mind of this triangle, Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, year after year after year after year. I believe this is what Samuel is doing when he's 34. I believe it's what he's doing when he's 46. I believe it's what he's doing when he's 62. I believe it's what he's doing when he's 68. Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah. Same roads, same towns, many of the same people judging Israel in those places. I mean, part of bringing judgment is you happen upon a village and there is a conflict between 2 families. One says, "We loaned them an ox. The ox died in their custody. They owe us an ox." And the other family is going, "You got to be kidding me. That ox was sick and on its last leg. We might owe you something, but we don't owe you an ox." Samuel has to bring justice to this situation before a conflict over livestock becomes a tribal war, before it escalates. He also has a responsibility to go, "Hey, down the road, I see, is someone building a shrine down there? That's not a shrine to Baal, is it? Y'all aren't involved in that, are you?" Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah. That's Samuel's circuit. I ask you a question. What's yours? And what I'm asking here is this: what is it that either in teaching or administration is a task that you do over and over and over again. That is critical, but you do it with nauseating repetition. Whisper it to the person near you. What might that task be? Critical to your job, critical to teaching, but something you do with nauseating repetition. All right. That just became a moment of group therapy, didn't it? All right. Yeah, here's the deal. Here's the deal. If I pulled aside a group of teachers and I asked them, why did you go into teaching? I'm guessing a whole bunch of them would say, grading. Grading essays. Grading essays of seventh graders. Grading essays of seventh graders over the weekend. That's why I went into teaching. What is it that you do? It's important, but you do it with nauseating repetition. Having a conversation about the school's cell phone policy with a student, yet again, taking the time not only to remind them of the rules, but to remind them of the why behind the cell phone policy. Teachers, you may have this conversation again and again. Administrators, having reminders with your teachers about the school's cell phone policy. Not simply reminding them of the rules, but the why behind the policy. A problematic student. And you have that wonderful, glorious opportunity to interrupt your lesson plan and say, join me, Jesse, in the hallway. And you step out, and with the compassion that you can muster, you go, what's going on? What's going on? I mean, Jesus, full of grace and truth, how to bring that in that hallway conversation. Speaking listen, I'm for you, but I'm not for that. Effective teachers will do this over and over and over the years. And then, when that is not successful, there is the wonderful call home. Hey, it's me again. I'm concerned about Jesse. I really care about him, and this has been some challenges. No discipline yet. No, detentions or suspensions, but. Wonder if you can help me here. Anything going on that I don't know about? And again and again and again and again and again and again and again. There's just some things that are central to effectiveness that we don't do because it's new and interesting. We do it because it's good. And it's part of your circuit. It's part of Samuel's circuit. Now, quite frankly, I felt kind of out of touch with your calling, and in preparation for today, I just realized I needed to do some extensive, exhausting research into what some of your challenges might be. So in order to do my extensive research, I fulfilled that obligation by calling my little brother, who has been a school teacher for 30 years. Middle school and high school, 30 years, and 11 years of that was a cross-country coach for the high school, so 30 years. So I asked him the question, so what is it that is a routine task that you do over and over and over and over and over again, that you do faithfully, but it is with, a nauseating repetition? You know what he said? Tweaking lesson plans. Two of his classes, one of them is technology. My friends, a lesson plan for 5 years of technology, obsolete and irrelevant in technology. He's got to tweak it again. One of his classes is a current events class. I mean, the last 2 years, issues like immigration, the Middle East. A lesson plan from 4 years ago isn't going to do it. And so when I asked him the question, what is it that you do again and again and again with nauseating repetition, and it leads to long-term effectiveness? What is it? He mentioned forever, 30 years, and still tweaking lesson plans to be more effective. So here we go. What's yours? And by that I mean, can I ask you to isolate one habit in your teaching world that you go, man, if I need to double down on that. If I did that more consistently and regularly, I just think I would be able to bring more of myself to the students that are entrusted to me. Can you isolate one task? And I don't know what it is for you. For those of you that live in fear of calling a parent, it might be, stopping the class and speaking with grace and truth out in the hallway, speaking the truth in love. I'm for you, I'm not for that. What is it for you? I just need you. I think it would be healthy for you to walk away from our conversation today isolating one habit in your professional life that, if done regularly and repeatedly for a long period of time, could make a massive difference in your effectiveness as a teacher or your effectiveness as an administrator. There's a problem of a convention or conference is we need a drink of water and we put our face up to a fire hose, right? And there's just all this stuff. If you can walk away with one discipline to double down on, I think that would serve you incredibly. Because again, the job here, as I see it, as a senior pastor and also in education, the task as I see it is, how do you bring the best version of you over and over and over and over and over? How can you bring the best version of yourself, the best you, day after day after day after day after day? My friends, this is hard, and it's harder when you're depleted. And it's harder when you're exhausted. My friends, those of us who specialize in pouring ourselves out have to specialize in filling ourselves up. I would suggest that much of your effectiveness in the classroom depends on the care of your soul outside the classroom. Those of us that specialize in pouring ourselves out need to specialize in filling ourselves up. So I want to ask you a different question. The first question was, can you identify one habit in your professional life? The second question is, can you identify one repeatable habit in your personal life outside the classroom for the nurture and care and filling of your own soul? So I'm going to give you some ideas. Again, I'm not prescribing here. I just want to give you some ideas so that you can perhaps, if our gracious God would be pleased to embed one of these in your heart, I think that would be fantastic. But kind of walk away with one habit too for your personal life. One of mine has to do with a daily journaling activity that I have. I've journaled year after year after year, and one specific thing I do in my journal every day is I just write down what are 3 unique things that I'm grateful for. It's 3 gratitudes a day. I started this long before it came out in happiness studies, where it said people who tend to be happy often itemize 3 things a day that they're grateful for. And by unique, I mean not my food, my clothes, my car, my food, my clothes, my car, my food, my clothes, my kids, my car. Just that wonderful chicken Caesar salad last night, that incredible email I received yesterday, reuniting with that person and seeing them and hearing that they're doing better. Asiago cheese bagel toasted with cream cheese. My wife's cheesy mashed potatoes and my granddaughter's deep affection for my wife because of those mashed potatoes. Specific things, the beautiful colors in nature, rain in the spring, the first snowfall, sometimes something in nature, sometimes an article of clothing, sometimes a food object, sometimes a relationship, but 3 items a day, 3 items a day, 3 items a day. Now, I did not begin this discipline because I am the gold standard for gratitude. I started this discipline over a decade ago because I began to detect undercurrents in my heart of radical ingratitude. After serving the same church for 30 years, I was beginning to feel entitled. And I just assumed the blessings of God are bombarding my life by the hundreds. I just need to stop every day and catch 3 of them as they go zipping by. And so I did this for the protection of my heart. I wanted this discipline, 3 gratitudes a day, to bend the current of my heart toward gratitude. Let me say it bluntly. I found myself in fear of becoming an unthankful old guy. And I needed to instill a discipline to bend my heart toward gratitude. And I discovered something. It's not simply that gratitude is good, it's what gratitude pushes out. See, gratitude is an obsession with what is going right. Complaint is an obsession with what is going wrong. Anxiety is an obsession with what might go wrong. And envy is an obsession with what is going right for everybody else but me. Gratitude, it's not simply gratitude is good. It's what it pushes out, because good movement pushes out bad movement. And bad movement pushes out good movement. So that's one of mine, gratitude. When I say I've done it for over a decade, I actually sifted through my bin of old journals to try to figure out when did I actually begin this, and I stacked them up on my coffee table. That's how long I've been doing this stinking gratitude exercise. I'm telling you, it will change your heart in only 3 to 5 years. I'm serious. It's not what we do tomorrow. It's what we embrace as a habit day after day after day after day that tends to mold the heart over time. I shouldn't say this to a group of Christian school teachers, but reading the Bible tomorrow probably won't help you, because doing anything for one day probably won't help you. It's what we do on repeat over and over and over and over. So gratitude is one of mine. Second one, just to continue to get us thinking here just a little bit, because I'm not saying pursue gratitude. I'm saying latch onto one habit that can help mold and shape your heart. I don't know what that is for you. One for my wife Chris and I is Sabbath. Now, I know, Sunday is the Lord's day. I speak 3 weekend services, Saturday night and 2 Sunday morning. And even in my secondary reduced role now, I still do it about 20 weekends a year. Would you believe me if I told you that Sunday is not my day of rest? I am a social introvert. I have more personal interactions on weekends than should be legally allowed for someone of my temperament. And so it's not just the pouring out in the sermons, it's the talking in the meeting and the talking in the meeting. Sunday is not my day of rest. We chose Friday. Over a decade ago, Friday is that one day a week where we awaken and go, today, there's nothing we have to do and there's no place we have to go. Now, often what someone does on their day off is they simply set down their work to-do list and they pick up their house to-do list. We got to shop for a couch. We got to go to Costco. We got to get our teeth cleaned. We got to get the taxes done. We got to get the oil changed. And that's gotta. We like to awaken, feel the peace of God come upon you with no to-do list. To get up late, to enjoy breakfast together. Either I make breakfast or we go out for a very late breakfast, walk around our city. We find ourselves tired. We come back and nap. We listen to music. We spontaneously get together with friends. My friends, this has been life-saving. This will change your life in only 3 to 5 years. It's not what happens on one Friday. It's the damage of 5 years of working with no rest and never turning that switch off. And it's the growth that can happen in training the heart to rest over time. And so I'm not saying, and a Sabbath day will heal you. It can't, it won't. It's the discipline over time. So again, what I'm urging you to do is there one discipline you can walk away with for your personal life? Because what if you're trying to give yourself and pour yourself out over and over and over and over, what if what you do to care for your heart outside the classroom is one of the things that can most affect your effectiveness inside the classroom? And that Sabbath thing, I know what some of you are thinking. Some are thinking, I can't take Sabbath, my day is never done. Sabbath is not your reward for getting your work done. It's the rest in the middle of your work. And the image I have in my mind, literally on Thursday night, is the standardized test. The SAT, the type test, where you sit down and you got 90 seconds to do one section, and then the person administrating the test goes, pencils up. or pens down. I don't know what they say these days, but pencils up. You go, no, 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 I'm not done. I still have more questions. I have 12 questions I didn't answer. No, you're done. Literally, on Thursday evening, I answer my last email, I make my last call, I send my last text, and literally I say to myself, pencils up, you're done for now. And trust me, it will all be there when you get back. Sabbath has been one of my practices. So I made a little list here just to encourage you a little bit. Maybe yours will not be a gratitude list or Sabbath. Maybe it will be something like date night. Some of you aren't married, some of you are. The gravitational pull over time in a marriage is toward drifting apart. And it takes intentionality and focus to stay connected. If I said, what is one thing you could do repeatedly as a habit that could perhaps make one of the biggest imprints in your life long term? Some of you would say date night or date breakfast or something like that. Some of you have small children. Many of you don't. Those of you with small children, intentional bedtime routine. A prayer, a song, a story. When everything in your system, you're tired, just get those brats to bed. A slowed down, intentional bedtime routine, again, over the course of months and years, could make an extreme difference in your connectivity to your children. Exercising 3 times a week, when you know where and you know when and you know what that exercise is. Again, do it twice makes no difference. Implement it a year or two, you will see changes over time. Restoring your devotional life. There was a day when you would awaken and read a psalm before you plowed into your day, and it just kind of got lost, and that needs to be restored. Listen, those of us in the business of pouring ourselves out need to be in the business of filling ourselves up. This isn't just about you getting into the scriptures. This is about the scriptures getting into you. This isn't about getting something out of it. It's about getting someone out of it. What if your gracious God would be pleased to meet you from time to time as you slow your day and open the Word? So it could be that these ideas I'm giving, you know what yours is, and it's radically different from these, but I offer these as samples, and I would love for you to latch onto one repeated discipline in your professional life, teaching or administration, one repeated discipline in your private life. What if your effectiveness in the classroom is radically tied to care of your soul outside the classroom? Jeff, these are little things. Having a conversation with a student in the hallway, what's going on, calling a parent, reading a psalm, these are little things. And you go, I want to change the world. Exactly. These are little things, and little things count. I want to refer you to the writings of the French theologian from the 1600s. His name is Francois Fenelon. And I wrote this book some years back on slow and steady faithfulness. It was called Dream Big, Think Small. And the think small part was just that little stuff over and over and over and why it matters. But in that, I quote this thing from Fenelon, where Fenelon goes, great acts of virtue are rare because they are seldom called for. Great acts of virtue are rare because they're seldom called for. What comes to my mind as I read that is just, you're at a park, you're with your family, there's a lake there, and you look out 100 yards into the water, and it looks like a young swimmer is floundering, and you grab a life-saving device and go out and help save someone's life. That's kind of hard to schedule into next Thursday at 3:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, great acts of virtue. They're rare because they're so seldom called for. To do small things that are right continually without being noticed is much more important. And then this kicker. Faithfulness in the little things better proves your love for God. It is the slow, plodding path rather than the passing fit of enthusiasm that matters. I love that. It is the slow, plodding path rather than the fits and starts of enthusiasm that really matter, and it's the daily stuff that better shows my love for God. Younger leaders especially. Listen, we want to live great lives. But in order to live great lives, we make a big mistake. We look for something great to do. We look for that moment when we're going to be discovered, that breakthrough moment, that moment where we discover our absolute unique contribution to the planet. And while we're waiting for this great thing to appear, a whole parade of good things goes marching by undetected and unseized because they're just not good enough. And what I want to suggest to you is that what if greatness, those who arrive at truly great lives, do not arrive at great lives by doing great things, but by doing good things repetitively? What if those who arrive at greatness arrive at the room of greatness, and it is at the end of a very lengthy corridor of repeated goodness? I suspect this is why Paul, the apostle, wrote to the Galatian churches, do not grow weary in doing good. In the proper season, you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. We started with one of my heroes, Fred Rogers, and love to end with Fred. While he had the same entrance drill for 33 years, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, his closing song changed over time. He used a different closing song at different eras. But as he was coming to the end of his run, when he contracted stomach cancer that would take his life and bowed out of his program, the song that he was using was a song, the lyrics went like this: and I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more ideas for you, and you'll have things you want to talk about. I will too. And there was a promise. I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be back. And he was back for 33 years. Where is it in the quietness of this moment where you just need to seize a slow and steady habit where you're willing with courage to say, I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be back. This, my friends, shows our love for God and others in a way that the sporadic, the enthusiastic, the sudden breakthrough never will. It is slow and steady and good. May our gracious God empower you to pursue the faithful life over time. May he fill you in your depletion. May you remember that you are his loved daughters and sons. And from that identity, may he empower you to love and to lead.